For all of you who are watching from home, we're going to keep the live stream going so you too can be a part of the fast meeting. We would welcome you to come and be a part of it. You can turn the mic off now for a minute.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
here and just kind of face it in one big group so that way we can all hear it. Would that work?
Probably be better to just have the middle camera zoomed in on the leader so as to not broadcast how empty it is.
Okay, we can do that. Yeah, let's just use the middle one. We'll just kind of put it right around where I am. Yeah, we'll have a couple more. And then, wonder is this long enough? Let's just kind of do this.
Hi Mike, how are you today?
All right, I'm going to go get everybody in here so we can get started. Come on in. If you are going to join us for the fast meeting, I would welcome you to come back into the sanctuary. Bob? All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Actually, I am really happy for the crew we have today. Whenever we're starting something new, you know, we were just hoping for 5 people, and we have a good 8 or 10, which is a great start. So I just really quickly how some of this got started. Beth Wally has been a part of FAST for years upon years, and she kept trying to get Stephanie and I to get involved, and we did a little bit. We went to their big annual meeting, and it was really neat, and I got a chance to go to a virtual house meeting about 2 years ago now. But the more I've learned about it, the more I really like FAST. There are some things as a church we can do. As a church, we can fill up our Hope Villages box with food and donate food. We can go to Bethel Farm Ministries and volunteer and work hard. We can help individuals. What we can't do as just our church is really work on the heart of the problems in Pinellas County. It takes more people than what we have. And what FAST does is it brings people together. It brings churches and synagogues from all over the county together to be able to speak with one voice for thousands of people. And when you start doing that, we can actually start to make change. And so the more I've been learning about it, I really have been excited about what FAST does. And y'all have been listening to me all morning, so I'm going to be quiet and turn it over to Jacqueline Reyes, who is on staff with FAST, and she is going to tell us a little bit more detail what FAST is, and then take us through a house meeting, which is kind of the grassroots part of the group.
If you want to pass those out, I'm happy to. That would be great. So thanks, everyone. I know I've met some of you before. I'm Jacqueline Reyes. So as Pastor Bob said, we're a county-wide justice ministry in over 40 different congregations of all different faiths. Temple B'nai Israel across the street is a member. St. John Episcopal right over there is a member. And we have congregations of all different denominations. And as Pastor Bob alluded to, we really try to look at what is the root of the problems that we are facing. So, for example, one of the verses that we talk a lot about is Micah 6:8, and what the Lord requires is to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. So from there we see these kind of 3 different these are requirements, if you will, justice, mercy,
Your mom's inside, Crystal, if you were looking for her.
Well, we can't, no one congregation can do that alone. That's why FAST was created by clergy in Pinellas in 2004 as a way for congregations to be able to work together to actually get at the root cause of the problem. So for example, affordable housing. Over the past 3 years, we've gotten the city of St. Petersburg and the county to allocate $100 million of our penny for Pinellas tax towards affordable housing, right? Solving the root problem, actually giving people more affordable housing. Or for example, 2 years ago, we got the Pinellas County School District to change their discipline program and implement something called restorative practices, which actually seeks to get at the root of why a child is misbehaving and has led to a drastic reduction in school suspension. So we're looking at kind of big picture, what it means for policy or needs to be. So all of our work started with our members vote. And so every year we have over 100 small groups called house meetings like this, listening sessions, where we ask people, what are you struggling with? You see the questions on the agenda there. So that's what we're going to do today, is kind of hear people's stories and ask these questions, and then at the end we'll talk about next steps. So what does that actually mean? So what are we going to do with these stories, right? What does it mean to be part of the justice industry? So that's what we're going to focus on. Those kind of questions. Pastor Bob, did you want to split up into 2 small groups for the question portion, or no?
I would say let's just probably stay together.
Okay. So, one thing that we are very strong about with Justice Ministry is being very diligent about time. We want to respect everyone's time. So we ask that when you share for about a minute. I'll keep a timer on my phone, and when that minute is up, I will raise my hand. So when you see my hand raised, just know it's like time to, you don't have to stop mid-sentence, obviously, but kind of time to wrap it up. So if you'll see, the first question on there is what struggles are you, your family, or friends dealing with right now? So again, I'm going to take notes, like not with names or anything. If you'll share your name, just so I know who you are, that'd be great. But we always take notes kind of anonymously to share them with the other congregations to see what common themes there are in our community. So we ask that also you share about something personal. So this is not necessarily something like, not something you've seen in the news or not something you've read in the paper, right, but something that's impacting you or your family or friends. It doesn't have to be a, quote, community issue, right? Like, this morning I had someone share at a house meeting that their best friend was diagnosed with terminal cancer and they were really just struggling with supporting that person, right? That's a completely valid and great story to share during this time. It's, hearing what's going on in the community, and it's a chance for us to get to know each other in different ways. So I'll start, and then I'm going to sit and we can just kind of go around the circle. So for me, something that my family and friends are dealing with right now, I think, is the cost of housing. My husband has 3 sisters, all of which live over in Hillsborough County, and 2 of them have kids. One has 2, one has 2 with 1 on the way, and they were both trying to buy houses this summer, and just like very quickly got priced out of being able to buy a house, and so they're really frustrated that they're stuck in this cycle of paying so much on rent that they can't really save more for a house, but they don't have enough saved to afford a house that can actually fit their family of 4 to 5. So I think that's something that my family is struggling with. So Pastor Bob, how about you go next?
Sure. I think by far what my family is dealing with right now is my dad's Alzheimer's, and struggling to see how to do what's best for him, and also how to take off a lot of the stress from my mom, and then also dealing with all of you know, all of the other issues that go along with that. And not Pinellas County, but it's definitely, you know, Florida. And I know of, in our own church, we have multiple families that are dealing with the same issues that my family's been dealing with. We may be at different stages on that journey, but we're all really starting to struggle with how to balance that.
We'll stick to Rebecca for now.
But I guess the main was people who have mental issues, they go to a therapist, and they get into the therapy, and then that therapist leaves, and another one comes back, and then they start over again, or they go somewhere else, and it's been a real cycle for my own daughter. She gives up on therapy.
Thank you for sharing that. Susan. You want to share next?
I'm going to pass.
Okay. You want to share?
I should pass too. I live in a sheltered life, I guess, and the only thing I hear is what's on the news, and I've gotten to where I don't even believe half of what they say. So he's passing too, even though you can't see him.
Okay. Great. Well, how about, do you want to start back there? Oh, wait, we have one back there. Sorry.
The things that are a concern to me now are more like Pastor Bob, more personal in the sense that there are health issues amongst family and friends. And then also the loss of my brother-in-law and my son's father in the last year and a half.
Well, thank you for sharing. That sounds really difficult. And your name again?
My name is Veronique.
Oh, great. You're playing piano. Great. You want to share?
Apparently, we roll along.
Yes, I live in a mobile home park. It's a senior park, 55 and over. And a lot of the people in there are on fixed incomes. And we had our rent committee meeting with the owner of the park. I was chairman of the committee. And the rent is going to go up $20 a month. That may not seem like a lot, but to a lot of the people in our park, it is a lot. They're on fixed incomes of only $800 or $900 a month. And having to deal, the owner was talked down from $25 to $20 a month. But talking with these people and trying to, I understand that a lot of them are having a tough time. And it's hard for me to deal with it, to talk to these people. Try to let them understand that the owner is a businessman and this is a business he's running. But on the other hand, some of these people are really going to struggle this year. So that's the main thing right now. That myself and the other 5 members on the committee are dealing with, trying to not really justify, but trying to let these people know that this is just business.
Thank you for sharing.
Can I ask you how much your rent is?
It's going to be $600 a month. I know that
That includes everything, right?
water, sewage, and lawn care.
And do you have a recreation center?
We have a clubhouse, and part of the owner's justification for his rent increase, he just put approximately $40,000 to $45,000 into a new swimming pool, which is nice. Everybody enjoys it, but it's hard to people that don't use the pool. It's hard to get across to them that this is part of what makes the park.
Right. Well, even if they like at the end of the day, if you're on a fixed income, right, you're on a fixed income, there's no money.
I know several people that they live together only because it's the only way they could. One person makes around $900 a month, and the other gets about $715 a month. So by themselves, it would be just almost impossible to pay your own electric bill and whatever.
Either of you want to share?
The way I have seen some homeless people survive in Oregon is they have cardboard houses on the side of the road.
Okay, but this is your personal
And then down here, they float around, they walk all day, and they don't have a place to stay except up by the Pinellas County Sheriff. Or some of them, which I think are quite creative, they save their money, they buy a small sailboat with a cabin in it, and they put it out in the harbor and anchor it. They have a little rowboat that they can
That's
go.
where he's going when I kick him out.
That's where I'm headed. I've already picked out a spot. But you don't pay any rent on it. And I don't know how he gets electricity. I haven't figured that out. There must be some cheap way to get electricity. And everything else. And he rows in and out. I mean, that's a lot cheaper than paying for your rent. Doing something like that.
Small houses.
Thank you. And what is your name?
Jim?
Jim.
Dave.
That's Dave. Okay. Dave, thank you, Dave. Did you want to share anything about what you're struggling with?
Well, I'm struggling with that. My mother died at 102, so it was that, but I'm dealing with what to get rid of, what to keep, how to fix it so that my brother's going to come stay in it for a while. And then I'm starting working with the youth on the butterfly garden, and I'm trying to get myself back into reality at some stage. And I feel like I'm torn in a lot of different directions, but I'm worried about that there's not enough youth to do the work that we have taken on in our garden. But our church is because of all of these problems, the group of collectively used to be 8 to 10 kids is now 2 to 4, and if we're lucky, it's 6. And my heart goes out to them and loves them and wants us to have that collectiveness that comes from being with God and being loved in a safe place.
Well, we really have a good thing in that it's on video now. You can listen to the video of our preacher. So you
A
don't
lot
have,
of good things.
and there are a lot of people that don't want to get vaccinated.
And that's a struggle.
What's your name?
Marsha.
Thank you, Marcia. Appreciate it. And thank you for sharing. Jim?
A couple of your nonprofit organizations and churches to get members to join them and help out with the
Is there anything you see through work with nonprofits in the community that concern you?
Well, there are things that need to happen. The handicapped kids need to exercise. And our groups provides those bicycles, bicycles. There's old people and young people benefiting from the barbershops and that kind of stuff. That's therapy, action and education and so forth. It's hard to get rid of
Right.
can't reach out and touch people anymore.
Yeah, it's tough to be doing ministry work when half the world is still very much closed off, honestly. Well, thank you all for sharing. Kind of in our first question, just talking about those things that we're all struggling with. Pastor Bob, I feel like for sake of time, we should choose one of the other two and not do both. Do you have a preference on, do you want me to talk a little bit about things that we have done, or the third question is about environmental concerns?
Talking about what we have done is probably going to be at our level the most
Yeah.
beneficial.
Okay, so I'll just share a little bit then about some of the kind of things we have been working on. So as I said, everything that we have ever worked on has come out of these kind of small group meetings. So for the past, it's been more than a few. I want to say maybe the past 5 years, we've been working on the affordable housing crisis. So as I said, we've gotten about $100 million committed from this Penny for Pinellas cycle that goes from 2020 to 2030. Previous to that, before 2020, we also got 19.2 million and then another 15 million in the 2015-ish timeframe that has already since created over 2,200 units of affordable housing for low-income working families. We also recognize that housing continues to be a very big problem. And so at our annual assembly coming up at the end of October, our housing committee is going to recommend that we continue to work on that and find other solutions, because the housing crisis is just getting worse and worse and worse. There was a Tampa Bay Times article yesterday about how rent is increasing higher in Tampa Bay than any other city in the United States right now. So another thing that we have been working on is actually something that you mentioned with our criminal justice committee. So years ago, we started hearing stories in house meetings of children who were getting arrested for nonviolent minor things. So for example, throwing an orange out of a school bus, or stealing a t-shirt, or stealing a keychain, or being in a park after dark and got arrested for trespassing. And so from 2013 to 2018, we worked to get our sheriff, our community, to use something called it's a juvenile diversion program. So instead of getting, and believe it or not, these kids were getting arrest records. You think that, oh, they're a youth, they're juvenile, it's sealed. Because of the electronic age, that's not true anymore. There's like no such thing as sealed. All it takes is a more in-depth background check. And so we started asking our sheriff and our local law enforcement leaders to use this youth diversion program. We found out this is a program that was started by the state of Florida. With all the kids that go through the diversion program, there's only 4% of them who get in trouble again. They don't end up with an arrest record. They might have to do community service or anger management or some sort of addiction treatment if they're caught with, marijuana, whatever it is. It's a really effective program. And throughout that time, so basically from 2013 to 2018, we got our county to utilize this program to the fullest extent, and now 96% of all children who are eligible for a diversion in our county get access to it. So we are now leading the state in terms of our county's youth diversion program. At the same time, we were working to get a bill passed at the statewide level to make sure that this youth diversion program would be in every county. And in that bill, we also got the bill passed after about 3 years of us working in Tallahassee with our sister organizations to get it passed. And it also laid the groundwork for having adult diversion programs. So now, adults who commit, again, we're talking non-violent misdemeanors. We're not talking about serious things where someone is getting injured. They are eligible for an adult diversion program. So the good news is that our county already has an adult diversion program. The bad news is that in 2019, of the over 12,000 arrests for misdemeanors, only 700 people successfully completed the diversion program. So last year at our Nehemiah Action, which is our big event that we have, I'll explain in a little bit, we had Chief Holloway, Chiefs of St. Pete, Chief Slaughter of Clearwater, our police defender, and our clerk of court agreed to work with us to expand this adult diversion program so that more people can get access to it. Well, that's something else we're working on, and the final thing that we have been working on is a central pathway for mental health and addiction treatment. So if you've ever had experience with someone who has mental illness or addiction, it's really hard to find the right treatment. You don't know where to go. You call 211. They basically just give you a list of numbers for you to call. Which if you're someone who's in mental health crisis, you cannot pick up the phone and call 20 different providers to see what kind of works for you. So in 2019, we got our county administrator and 2 key funders from Foundation for Healthy St. Pete and from Central Florida Behavioral Health Network to agree to work together to create basically a central pathway for accessing services. So no matter what you're struggling with, no matter where you live in the county, there's one number you can call, right? And they will get you an appointment for the right services versus you having to kind of call around and see what works, what's available, what you can afford, etc. So the very, very exciting news is that finally this summer, after 2 years after they made the commitment, finally the county administrator has followed through on this commitment to work with the providers. They funded the central pathway for $1 million to get it up and running. They've already had 3 info sessions for providers to get them on board with what the county is doing to make sure that everyone is collaborating together. And that central pathway is not quite done yet. It's supposed to be up and running in the spring, but starting in the spring, basically we'll have like a completely restructured and easy to access mental health and addiction providing landscape, which is super exciting. So that's why you see, again, this work that we're continuing, we always want to make sure that it's grounded in the source we're hearing. So that's why our second question is, what are your experiences with the criminal justice system, mental illness, addictions, or kind of lack of affordable housing? So we can, again, just kind of go around briefly. I know some of us already shared on those topics, but if you have something else to share on a different topic, you can feel free. Yeah.
What church is your church?
I am currently a member of a Methodist church down in St. Petersburg, Alabama. Yeah. So I'll share first, just briefly, criminal justice system. This happened about 2 years ago, but my best friend, her sister lost her job, and she became homeless. My friend didn't know for a couple of weeks. When they finally found out her sister was staying in her car, they had her, come to her house. In that time, her sister had gone through one of those like toll by plate things to got a little toll. Well, the bill was sent to her old address. She didn't live there anymore. She didn't know it, so she didn't pay this $2 fine or whatever it was. So her license got suspended. Again, she was still homeless, didn't know it, didn't get the mail at the time, and one day was driving and got arrested for driving on a suspended license. Again, that she did not know was suspended. That all happened because she didn't pay this $2 fine. So that obviously made her job search a lot harder. She does have a job now and is on her own, but she basically had to live with my really good friend for like a year and a half while she could kind of get all this figured out. And when she got the license suspended, she had to pay hundreds of dollars in fees to get the license back, like reinstated or whatever the word is. So that's kind of my experiences with the criminal justice system. But again, just choose maybe one of those things if you have something to share, or if you don't, that's also fine too. So Pastor Bob, what about you?
So I think mine is kind of in the realm of affordable housing, but it's more of not the rent or the mortgage, but the monthly bills. We're getting more and more calls here at the church for people to help with electricity, water, with the utilities keep going up as well. And although we give money to Hope Villages, it's not really what we're set up to do. They're really set up more for food. They only really help if they have money. And I don't know where to send them. And it's one of those things, it's unfortunately irresponsible for individual churches to give out that money because we never know if they're trying to scam us, and if we want our money to be useful, we want to go to the right people. But I have found in my nearly 2 years of being here a really good way to help people or to send people to get help for utilities, which again, it is unknown how much I'm paying every month. Thankfully, I can afford it, but there are a lot of people who can't, and I want to help them, and I want to be able to help them, but I'm not always sure where to send them.
Can I say something? I believe Duke Power has a program to help that out. They ask you in your bill, do you want to donate so many dollars to help people that can't pay their bills? I don't know how many people know about it and take advantage of it. That's the problem. Also, the city of Clearwater, and I read this in my water bill. They have a program to help people pay for their utility. Again, how many people know about it and how many people take advantage of it, I don't know. I got an idea they wait until the 12th or 13th hour, and then they come to places like us to help them instead of going to those places that already have a pot that's not being used, I think. I don't know whether that's the case or not. There are two sources that you can get help on utilities, and those would be the two. But you can't wait until you're 90 days past due and then call the city and say, pay my bill for me. You have to get in there ahead of time.
Don't we have a list in our manna bags of places you can go to contacts to get help?
Yes. And that's something that's really not used very much here, are these manna bags that the youth group has put together. They sit out in the narthex, and I keep looking every week, and it doesn't seem to go down. These bags are meant for homeless people or someone that's having a tough time. There's there's hygiene items in there, there's a bottle of water, and there is a list of different organizations you can turn to.
So I guess we can just open up. Does anyone else want to share related to that second question, something that, you know, your family or friends or social circle is kind of struggling with related to any of those topics?
I have a friend that messed up when she was much younger and has been straight for like 15 years. And still, whenever she goes to apply for a job, they see that she has a record, and it seems like that there should be some way to put a statute of limitations on it, where she's gone straight for so many times, but she's always okay until the bottom line, and then they check her references or whatever, and it's like 15 years ago when she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but nobody will pay her more than, you know. So I wish there was, the criminal justice could work to put a time on it. If you walk the straight and narrow and participate in church and try to do the right things, if they could knock it off the record. But it's last, you know, it's your whole life for something you did when you were 20, when we've all screwed up. Just not everybody gets caught.
Anyone else want to share something?
I find with the criminal justice system, or the justice system in general, whether it be a divorce or whether it be criminal charges, he who has, or she who has the most money can stay out of prison. He or she who has enough money to continue to pay lawyers can get their way with the criminal justice system. They carry it on and on. It goes through 3 years. It will go through 3 or 4 different judges. Now, how can a judge that takes over a case with briefs this high, is he going to read through all those briefs and be familiar with the case? No, he's just going to listen to somebody, and being the lawyers, because they are lawyers, judges are lawyers, and it just seems very unfair that if you have money, you can avoid prison. If you don't have money, forget it. They'll lock you up on the first day. You can't. If you don't have bond, you're out of there.
Thank you for sharing.
And there are people working for that, I guess now, the organization. But it's a very messed up system. Part of it's because it's overloaded. The other part of it is the money part of it.
Anyone else want to share?
The other thing that gets me is mental illness and our veterans, which equals homelessness. You know, it's like there should have more I could do with that.
Anyone else want to share?
I like the idea of us working together as a community to solve problems and to knowing that just to get it out of our, to talk about it.
But we need to be careful not to be manipulated by people in the community, because there's certain people in the community that know what to divulge and what not to divulge. And a person can be implicated and not be guilty. And then you have the social mob trying to punish them. And we shouldn't be in that position. Our Constitution is set differently. We follow the Constitution. I think a big problem is everybody uses cell phones.
We don't talk to each other.
Talk about addictions, that's probably the biggest addiction there is.
Well, you're right, and that's, you know, one of the main reasons, like the main purpose of this ministry is to bring changes in the community. And I think a big benefit that comes along with it is building relationships with people in the community, right? Like other congregations where you're actually really getting to know them, right? And hearing what they're experiencing and connecting around that, because we have lost a lot of those, community, neighborhood, family connections where, I mean, even before COVID, but especially now after COVID, right? We're all kind of siloed in our own spaces. Anyone else want to share before we move on?
Yeah, I adopted my kids, and before when they were in foster care, there's an issue of a gentleman went to jail for 45 years on attempted murder of my son. And had he been white, he probably would never have gotten that sentence. I think he deserves it, whatever the color. However, there's a racial disconnect there.
Anyone else? So, I guess I can share a little bit about how we actually fix these problems, and you want to talk about the steps after that as well. So, we've shared about a lot of really big things, right? None of the problems that we're talking about are simple, none of them are small, none of them are easy, and the only way that we can fix them is by working together. Again, that's why FAST was created. So I'll kind of explain our yearly process, how we do that, using the 4 dates on your calendar. So coming up, we have our annual assembly. That's where all of the members of our member congregations vote on what problems we're going to tackle over the next year. So we typically tackle about three problems every year. After that, throughout the winter, November, December, January, February, we do research. So we have anyone from any of our congregations can be on a research team. And so, for example, with housing, we met with CEO of the Florida Housing Coalition. We met with Pinellas County housing staff. We met with the CEO of Habitat for Humanity and other developers, right, to learn more about the problem and about potential solutions. So once we identify what solution it is we think is going to fix that problem, then we have our rally. So that's the second date list on your agenda on March 7th. That's where our research committees come forward and say, okay, we're the affordable housing team. Here's the research that we've done. Here's the solution that we've identified. And they get approval from our membership overall for what specific solution we're going to be asking for. Then comes the Nehemiah Action. That's our big one. That's our biggest event of the year. That's where we actually have public officials come. We invite them to come. Whoever it is has the power to fix the problem that we're working on. So again, sticking with housing, a couple of years ago, we invited all the county commissioners to come, and we asked them, will you spend 4.15% of the penny for Pinellas tax money between 2020 and 2030 on affordable housing? And ask them a very specific question. So again, faced with the power of organized people, those public officials have an incentive to say yes. They don't always say yes, right? They often do. They do know the questions ahead of time. We're not surprising anyone. They all know exactly what they're going to be asked when they come in the room, but it's that power of organized people that gets those commitments from them. We, of course, that's not the end. We have to follow up. So after we got that commitment from the county, we had to send people to county commission meetings and have meetings with individual county commissioners over the next year or two to actually make sure, okay, you made this commitment verbally, right? Now put it in writing and now actually do it. So, it often takes a little bit of time, and that can be my actions where we actually get the commitments. And then our 4th assembly of the year is our Joshua Assembly, and that's where we celebrate our victories. That's also the assembly where we invite public officials that have followed through to come and we celebrate them. So last May at our Joshua Assembly, we had a member of the school board there who had helped us get restorative practices in the schools, and she came and we celebrated her and applauded her for actually doing what she said that she would do. So that's kind of our process of how we use the power of organized people of faith to get commitments and make changes in our community. So I'll let Pastor Bob talk to you about your next steps as a congregation.
So where we are at right now is Jacqueline came to the session at the beginning of the summer, but then with all the craziness of the summer, we said we were going to do some research and talk about things, and then kind of decide how we wanted to proceed at our last session meeting. Where we are at as a session is we are really interested in moving forward with this. We had two major concerns. One is each congregation is requested to have 1% of their budget go to fast, or at least $1,000. And so, obviously, this is a huge chunk of change, so we're trying to make sure we can responsibly afford the dues. Now, granted, that money all goes to helping do all the stuff that Jack has been talking about. The other is that we were like, well, what if no one wants to participate? We have a great crowd. I know a couple people had to leave. But this was our first real opportunity to see what kind of interest we might have at the congregational level. This was a great beginning. I will look forward to chatting with any of you or all of you to find out what your impressions were. But as we are deciding if we want to become a member congregation, really our next steps is to get involved a little bit. Having our first house meeting was a great start. That's what we basically did today with a tweet. If we decide to join, if we have this many people, we'll have to have at least 2, maybe 3. So that way we can make sure everyone has a chance to speak and share and all of that. The next thing is we would love to have some people be willing to participate in these the 4 larger meetings. They're going to be virtual, right? Or both?
Or both.
They will either be in person or both. They'll be yes. So if you want to go, great. If you want to do it virtually, there'll be an opportunity. So it would be great to have a few people who will be interested in doing that. My request would be for all of us that are here to at least do the Jeremiah. That's the really big one where everyone's supposed to invite 3 friends. Let's all at least be willing to try that one out. But it would be great if we do the other ones leading up to it. And just start to see the process, start to see if this is something we really want to be a part of. As I said, I'm getting more and more excited about it. I think we can do some really good work reaching out with others to do really what we're called to do is followers of Christ, and that is help our brothers and sisters who are in need. If we can start working on the systems that are putting them in, maybe we can help our brothers and sisters by having them never enter into those problems in the first place.
I think most of these are Latinas, which is fine for most people. Where are these meetings?
So the annual assembly is going to be on Zoom. The one in October is going to be on Zoom. We are encouraging congregations to do watch parties. So like, I know Zoom isn't accessible for everyone, and it's just not as exciting as being in a room with people. So if you guys would want to set up a watch party, we could talk about that. The ones in the spring, honestly, like we don't know yet. We had planned to have the annual assembly in October in person, and then the Delta variant happened, so we're just going to wait a few more months to decide what the March meetings are going to look like. Typically, we try to rotate so that, like, if we do have the rally, in person somewhere in North County, then the action would be somewhere South County. We try to alternate North and South because we have congregations all over. So that's a really long answer for basically we don't know for the spring.
I love the idea of watch party. I would definitely work with you and trying to get that up and running for that.
Because it's going to go up on the street like that with all the people talking, and we can all sit around here and watch it in one gathering.
Yeah, so just
If we
a
do
better
it,
experience for a lot of people than just being at your house on Zoom.
if we do it in one of the other rooms, we can have half hour. That always makes watch parties.
Yeah.
Pretend it's a football game.
If you're doing this on Zoom, how do you take information where you're meeting?
Yeah, it's complicated. For the vote for the annual assembly, all of our congregations basically have to tally their votes ahead of time.
They have to do what?
They like calculate their votes ahead of time. So right now, all the past member congregations have the next like 3 weeks to talk to all their members and say, what do you want to vote on? And basically keep a record of it. And then that night, one person from each congregation will kind of share the numbers all together.
So the topics that we're voting on is determined before this meeting.
So we had, of all the folks who led house meetings, which is about 100 people, last Monday we had a meeting with all the people that led house meetings, and we kind of voted, or we determined, or I guess discussed is a good way to say, the 8 categories that seemed like the 8 strongest themes that came from house meetings. And those 8 categories are what our members are going to be able to vote on at the annual assembly.
So the annual assembly is basically a time to become aware of the categories and vote to yes, this is what we want.
Yeah, it's where the vote's happening, and again, like each of the things we have been working on, there will be like a report or an update or news about, hey, this is what's happened over the last few months. We also have people share testimonies to get a feel for some of the stories we have heard in house meetings, and then kind of go from there.
So you present, like you'll present 8 topics. It's not a matter of we're going to focus on the top 3 and we're going to select the top 3 tonight. You will focus on all 8, is that correct?
So it's structured a little bit differently. We'll have like a report and testimony about the things that we have been working on. We usually share, maybe 2 testimonies on new topic areas. We won't have like a presentation and a testimony on all 8 things.
Testimony?
So
Are they on the
folks,
road?
just folks from our congregations who are sharing their own stories that connect to the problems that we're working on.
Right. Well, I think as long as you don't violate the Constitution, because it's supposed to be a separation of the church and the state. And the Constitution rules of the United States and Bill of Rights rules. And as long as we respect that, I don't see any problem.
It seems to me that this is a cross-section of different denominations. Could be people who aren't even connected with a particular affiliated church who think about that like that. So I don't think you'll be talking about we're trying to recruit for this denomination or anything like that. We won't be preaching about what our faith believes. Therefore, this is for our community.
That's actually part of our bylaws, is that no congregation is allowed to proselytize. So if a church came and was putting flyers about their Baptist church. Yeah, and we intentionally, for example, like the solutions that we choose are not explicitly religious. So for example, when we worked on education, like there were specific Christian discipline programs that could be implemented in schools. We as an organization were not asking for that, right? One, because we have congregations that aren't Christian, but also because of what you just mentioned.
All right. So, like I said, our next step is work with Jacqueline to set up a watch party for that October meeting. I would love for any of you or all of you to join that, and then we'll keep you informed of the ongoing stuff. If there are no more questions, let us close in prayer. Lord, thank you for FAST, for a group of people who have come together from all over the county to try to make our home a better place to live for everyone. Lord, I ask that you be with Hope as we discern whether we are being called to join. And I also ask that you be with FAST as they are approaching the annual meeting to decide what avenues they need to be working on going down for this year. Lord, we have been asked to always love our brothers and our sisters. Help us find the best way to do it. In your holy name, Lord. Amen. Thank you, everyone.